Hey everyone, welcome to what would be our now fifth installment of the Solar Power Hour. Welcome to 2025. I am Austin Bear and our main host here, William Graham.
How's everybody doing today?
Excited to be here. We've got some cool stuff to talk about in regards
hmm
to all the new knowledge bestowed upon from Door to Door Con and just proper expectations for 2025. The good, the bad, the ugly moving forward. And I think there's
hmm
a lot to you know be excited about.
Absolutely. New year, finished it out last year very, very strong
Mm.
with the net metering program coming to an end the way we'd known it for the last 5 years and being able to get as many people installed as possible. It was a very, very successful last quarter of the year and very grateful for that. And looking forward to this year. There's definitely some new things happening, not only in policy, but with companies in general. There's a lot of struggling going on across the board in the nation for not only solar, but a lot of different things. So um, just, some reassurance there from the con that we just got back from that these companies that have fallen or gone out of business typically don't have the best practices. And one of the things that was really reassuring for me personally was the companies that are still doing really, really well are aligned with our practices, such as keeping extra material in the warehouse to make sure that we can replace things because things do change over time. Beyond that, being able to service people. One of the coolest things I heard was that people are picking up these abandoned customers and they are being able to be serviced in these particular areas, and it's good to see that in the industry.
100%. I mean, I think that's a huge testament of our fortitude in the community. One of the biggest things that I love to assure customers as I'm getting them signed up is something that differentiates us from, many, if not all of our competitors is that, Oasis Electric is a huge backbone of our company as well. And so, you have these, it doesn't matter how large or small, but unfortunately there are companies that aren't able to necessarily withstand the test of time, but those customers still need servicing. And
Right.
so Oasis Electric, again, I think foundationally, that's one of the coolest parts is that we're not only here to service our own systems, but inevitably all these other, customers that might not have that representative or company to call and actually come take care of them. And so, between the warranties and the actual,
hmm
boots on the ground that we're able to put forward, I really do think that that is a just very genuine for us to be able to from 5 years ago till or I guess 6 years ago now till this point saying hey we're not only going to be here to service you but just everyone else, and here we are.
Absolutely. Probably should explain the jerseys too.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, we look pretty fly, but why, you may ask? Uh, we happen to, sponsor the hometown Rivermen, so if you guys, haven't been down to a Rivermen game, please come down and check it out. They've been absolutely slaughtering the competition lately, and, it's fun sponsoring a winning team by all means, but
hmm
I would say, massive event that we get to here, I'll kinda let you kinda talk into the sponsorship aspect of it or how we're affiliated.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've been sponsoring them for 3 years now, I think. And then part of our sponsorship package is we get a custom jersey. And so this coming up weekend, it'll be our Sun Collectors day per se. And us being who we are, last year we got Scooby Doo jerseys. This year we got Grateful Dead jerseys. So there is a lot of excitement there. These are some swanky, swanky jerseys. And I do love our Rivermen.
Being a Peoria native, I feel like I fell short as a kid because I never had a Riverman jersey growing up, even though I went to a bunch of Riverman games. But I definitely feel like I've gotten to make up for it later in life because the Scooby Doo jerseys. I don't know if I've ever gotten more compliments on a jersey or just a clothing apparel, like wearing it out. Everyone loves the Scooby Doo jerseys. B, I just like having like exclusive stuff in general, and so it's just a really cool, the fact that we get to continue doing this each year. But they 100% deliver on the designs, and we're getting a pretty cool collection of Riverman jerseys from all the signed player or that are signed from all the players each year in the
hmm
office, which is pretty cool as well. But again, if anyone has their Saturday night available, I think it's at 7 o'clock at
hmm
the Civic Center. But yeah, we've got a big Riverman game coming up this weekend, and obviously you'll have the entire Sun Collectors crew there. We'll be repping the jerseys. But also feel free. We always have a table or booth set up as well at the Riverman game. So if you guys are ever curious and want to talk to us, that's a great way to go out with the family, have a good time, but then also be able to come check out our solar booth.
Absolutely. And any of our current clients, if you ever need some Rivermen tickets, we always have quite a few extras. So stop by the office anytime and pick up some tickets and enjoy some time with the family.
Absolutely.
But getting back to it, a lot of things are changing in the industry, and it really is a positive thing for a lot of these companies to be going out of business because the people that are doing it the right way are typically staying for the long term. And
Right.
to and it is unfortunate for people that get signed up for solar and they get signed up by the wrong company. The company goes out of business, and at the end of the day, That's what we're here for. I just wish it was more common across the country. There are a few companies doing service, but there are still a lot of abandoned customers out there, and that's something that I will be personally heavily building up this year. I want an entire service department, not only for our own clients, but for people out there that really need it.
Right.
Because the reputation of solar needs to be positive and it needs to stay alive. And with all these other companies going out of business, it's the time for repairing. It's the time for repairing the relationship for not only people that have gone solar, but misconceptions for people that haven't gone solar yet or have had a friend or family member maybe not had such a positive experience with it.
One of my favorite things to make sure that I really instill with my customers is obviously everything up to the installation is incredibly important. Making sure that permitting the entire process is done properly, that we're not skipping any steps, and that there's a might take us a little bit longer to do an installation process, but we're able to look back on it and know that everything was done as it should have been. But again, as much as I argue that everything up to the installation is important, I also like to say that the next 30 years is equally as important, because that's really where you need to make sure that your system is A, producing properly, and B, being serviced if it needs to be.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, as you saw from the convention out in Utah, there's been a major regression in the amount of just companies out there, and
Hmm.
that has been something that almost has been definitively writing on the wall. I don't think that anyone's been a stranger to the idea that there are companies that have treated solar like a gold rush. Their whole itinerary is to come in and possibly put up as many panels as possible, and then there's just another hotspot or another location that they can go to. And we have been here. We are concrete in Peoria in central Illinois, and I think that again, it just goes to show now, going on year 6, and that's
Hmm.
we're still just now getting started. But all the companies that haven't necessarily been able to do so, it, it's caught up with them in a sense. And just to see the amount of companies almost go down 30, 40, 50%.
Hmm.
But it's, again, the writing was on the wall in a sense, so I can't say that we're necessarily surprised, but it
Hmm.
is just one of those things that as the industry continues to develop, there's massive waves that keep crashing, and a lot of companies just aren't able to withstand those waves. But here we are.
Yeah, and another thing that's happening across the country is it's getting harder to consult for solar.
Yes.
It's with the programs changing, with incentives changing, with everything that's been going on, it is becoming more challenging. So the people that burn and turn and just set up leases or whatever, it's becoming hard for them to do their job in a bad way. And that's something that I noticed across the convention, is that the people that were there were really, really good solar salespeople or consultants. They were actually doing the right thing. And a lot of the people are getting weeded out. And it's amazing to see that. Another thing that that'll be new this year for the industry as a whole is there's a new association starting.
Mm.
And so that they're going to be able to do certifications, and there's going to be levels of the certification. I'm really excited to be a part of that, and the industry needs it. We need more accountability across the board, more integrity across the board, and so having that association and that accreditation is going to be amazing for the industry. And it's actually something, I don't know why it took this long to get there. It should have it should have been done day one, but
And if I'm not mistaken, on the reciprocal end of that as well, I believe that there's, not like as a threatening manner, but there's also kind of like a, blacklist, if you will,
hmm
or not starting, and which again, it's like a necessary evil in a sense,
hmm
where it's only going to have a positive effect. And yes, no one wants their name tarnished, but if you're bouncing around from company to company and practicing disservices and not,
hmm
just ethical installations or just practices overall, those people need to be weeded out. And naturally,
hmm
those are unfortunately the people that give any industry a bad name. Door to door knocking isn't already easy to begin with, but
hmm
if you're doing it properly, I can't tell you how many customers I've had that I've had phenomenal relationships built with because just doing the job right. But
hmm
again, just knowing that you've got two different things working for the industry moving forward. You've got accreditation processes, and then also just this, back end list to make sure that the bad weeds are kind of getting pulled, which is just, it's very optimal knowing that again we're just kind of progressing in a very positive manner.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I've noticed firsthand, and you have as well, is that with the reps that bounce around, used car salesmen, anybody that comes into our office wanting a job that has past sales experience, they typically don't get the job or they don't work out. Um, and that's just kind of what we see in the industry as well. These people just bounce around, and they don't actually truly understand how to explain things because they're in so many different markets.
Mm.
One of my biggest things is taking people up from the ground up. Whether they come from the serving industry, whether they're a kid and they just want their first job. It's a beautiful thing to see someone's whole personality change, their level of communication getting better, the positive outlook that they have in life. They got endless opportunities that are ahead of them. And I think we have a rep. His name's Fabian, and to see him sprint to the stage at Door Con, to see him get up on stage and speak to a room full of hundreds of people and never had imagined himself being a good public speaker or anything along those lines. And he's only been working with us for a few months, but I'm super proud of him, and I love those success stories, and that's part of the reason why we do what we do.
Absolutely. And I do think that, so first off, shout out to Fabian because he's the man. So he definitely showed up and showed out at door to door, and very excited to watch him keep on just thriving. More importantly, though, just to kind of piggyback off your point, again, a little bit of everyone's background or like the people that have been core or integral parts of our team. No one really woke up one day, aside from obviously you and Hunter, when everything was kicked off. But you know, I didn't wake up one day just with my arms down like, woo, solar. Like, I know that this is the thing that I want to do. You guys, shout out to Jim's Bistro in the Heights, because that's, another Peoria staple place, but I was serving tables there whenever I, was able to cross paths with you. And I remember you handing me a business card and you said, you're wasting your talents, here. You need to definitely come check out what you can do with us. And that, to me, I mean, I love telling the story now at this point, because again, I had no intention of necessarily getting into solar. It was something I crossed paths with, but it was a perfect storm, because I love being able to say that I work for this company and I would not work for another company that's not local. Again, I'm from Peoria, so enough things lined up. But then I look at my colleague Steven. He also, we'll have him on here eventually. You guys will get to hear from him firsthand. But he was an engineer at Caterpillar, and so again, it's not like he really woke up one day with his arms in the air saying, "Hey, this is what I need to do." But again, as we kind of dipped our toes in the pond, it was very organic for us to see that this is a great thing with great opportunity, and we're going to do things right. And I love just, I don't know, it seems like something out of a movie or a fairy tale, however you want to put it, because enough stars had to align or enough things had to happen. But again, no one on our team was, like you said, came from sales experience or had a sales background. I was in school for nursing and taking psych courses, so nothing geared in that regard. And my father is actually a salesman, and so his entire career growing up, I remember him constantly, being on his phone working with customers. He had to travel because his territory was out of state, and so I remember kind of being around that all the time, and not necessarily. I always had a mindset of like, I appreciate what you do because you do well, but I would, in a million years, I'm never going to do that because he's his axe was to the grind all the time. However, I was absorbing that way more than I realized, because now, lo and behold, full circle, here I am, as one of the top solar consultants in Central Illinois. If not, I would say Steve and I probably take that mantle pretty high. But it's really cool because, again, organically, we found ourselves in this position with no sales background. But I would dare say between our team, we've gotten to install and help more people with solar than anyone else. And so, again, it's just really cool to see how everything comes to fruition. But you don't have to have a major background in sales in order to make this make sense. It's just, again, how can you explain and resonate with people?
Yeah. And the work ethic. I mean, it's not an easy job. It goes home with you.
Yes.
It's and you got to handle a lot of rejection on a constant basis. And I'm looking forward to growing the team. It's always a little bit of a dip in have reps during the winter, just because everybody gets a little cold. Everybody gets a little complaining. But looking forward to growing the team. And then also being able to go from 5% battery installs last year to now is going to be around 95% battery installs. So it's a completely different pitch. There's a lot more information, a lot more nuances to it. But I'm excited for it because people get that huge benefit. It's not only they're adding batteries to their house so they get backup power, but it's not like a generator, right? So the generator, you have to pay for the fuel, and you better hope that the fuel is on. With solar, the fuel is always there. And so having that backup, it's amazing. Another thing that's happened recently is the SREC program for this current block did fill up. And for those of you out there that know anything about it, it is a capacity-based program. So the SREC incentive has gone down a little bit now.
As it does every time.
Every time. And the best time to go solar is always yesterday.
Yes, sir. I really think that's, I don't want to say a misconception, but one of the biggest points of clarity that I really try and stress with anyone that I get to have the privilege of having a conversation in regards to solar to. People obviously want to reap the most amount in terms of these benefits and the incentives, naturally. I think a major misconception that people, or a false hope that they might give themselves is, oh, if I wait, they might come out with something more, they might pump more money into this.
Right.
Breaking news, the money has been pumped into it. There has been money set aside from this on a state, and then the federal tax credit has actually been revamped back up to the 30% where it's been sitting. But for the state funding, that is on a decreasing metric. And as Will was just saying, as soon as a block fills up, that block is locked, that money is sent out, and then a new block will shortly there open. But the funding is always at a lesser amount. people that signed up 5 years ago were absolutely, the early bird gets the worm in the situation. And so just again, a picture I always like to paint is, again, the longer you wait, it does technically cost you more money, but the time to do this is always yesterday in a sense. But I always just really like to, and again, that's not meant to be the boogeyman in a sense, but I really do think that that's important information for people to have at their disposal. If this is something you're considering, the time to do it is always going to be yesterday.
Absolutely. And especially in January, it's such a good time to sign up because it does take a while to get the permitting and everything else completed. And so what happens typically is like a 3-month, 2-month install timeline.
Yep.
Then you're getting into spring. So you're going to get that overproduction in spring to help offset your summer months, as well as in the fall and getting all that benefit. So now is definitely the best time. People always like to say, oh, well, wait till tax time. But the idea with our company is no money down, so to be able just to get it going, and then you can pay off as quick as you want. If you want to use your tax money to do so, by all means. You will get the tax credit the following year, which will be amazing for anyone who is paying too much in taxes, like most of us are. But yeah, it's
If you're not paying too much in taxes, please let me know how you're doing that as well, because maybe I need to know something that I don't. But again, for the better majority of us that are paying our taxes, guys, the money that you were able to reap back from the state, federal, and then any additional strategies that we might be able to help you with, it is a no-brainer whenever it makes sense. And the clock is ticking, because there is going to be a day where the federal tax credit is no longer available, the state incentive is dried up, and people are still going to have an increasing power bill. And I just paid my Ameren bill for this past month, and I wasn't necessarily stoked on it. It was high as can be. So,
yep. And the power rates, the power increases, I should say, will be coming out soon if they haven't already. I haven't had a chance to look into that, but I know they get released in January, and I would be very surprised if they went down. So we'll have some updates on that next week, and beyond that, we'll have a very special guest coming on next week. So I'm excited for that. We'll have to leave that up to a little bit of a surprise, but as you guys have already known and experienced with us, we are trying to break misconceptions and educate people first and foremost. And some things that we're going to be doing with the podcast here in the next little bit is, bringing realtors on, bringing appraisers on, bringing customers on, just so everyone gets a real feel for how we do things and why we do things the way that we do. It's always from the heart and giving back to the community. And having that podcast last week with before Christmas was amazing with Pam and talk about CASA and how we go above and beyond for them. And it's going to be an amazing year, I think, for the country as a whole. Hopefully interest rates drop a little bit, power rates go up a little bit, and that's the sweet spot for us.
It would be ideal. I'm never upset with the idea of cost of living going down a little bit, but again, power rates haven't shown any indication of doing so, so that's why we're here. And also, just to kind of go off the point that you made there and being involved with our community and having guests on, we also want feedback from you guys. So any questions,
absolutely.
or I know that we're not the only company, so there's a lot of misconceptions or misinformation that's been thrown around, and our whole purpose here is to make sure that we can right those wrongs or add green to areas of gray and clarity. And so by all means, if there's ever times where you guys feel like you've been misled or you're not getting proper servicing on your system, that's what we're here for. We do want to hear back from you guys, because that's the whole point of us being the local company here, is to have engagement. And so please feel free. I mean, any questions or things that you feel like isn't being portrayed properly, let us know. We'd be happy to get feedback from you guys, because that only gives us more things that we can engage with or make sure that we're explaining properly to everyone.
Yep, definitely the year of healing the reputation of solar, and I'm excited for it.
Correct.
There's a lot of work that needs to be done, but it comes with education first. So what do you think? Cut it short and sweet this time?
I think it's a good episode for the first time back for 2025. I think that people don't need to hear us ramble too much, but I think this was just enough for today. So I think we can make this a good episode, guys. Seriously, thank you for tuning in. We do appreciate all the ears that you guys lend, and we do look forward to having our audience grow and being part of this community more and more. But that's only possible with you guys. So we do appreciate you giving us your time.
Absolutely. We'll see you on the next episode of the Solar Power Hour.